Hello, I'm BMillzebub and welcome to my channel. Before I get into today's video, I wanted to make a quick announcement that I have set up a Discord. So if anybody wants to join and have a conversation with me, you'll be able to find the link in the description box down below. But enough of that, let's get into the criticism, shall we? In this Criticisms of the Catholic Church, I'm going to be talking about confession. So as I'm often one to do, let's see what the Catechism has to say about it. The confession or disclosure of sins, even from a simply human point of view, frees us and facilitates our reconciliation with others. Through such an admission, man looks squarely at the sins he is guilty of, takes responsibility for them, and thereby opens himself again to God and to the communion of the Church in order to make a new future possible. So let's break this down one piece at a time. When the Catechism says the confession or disclosure of sins, even from a simply human point of view, frees us and facilitates our reconciliation with others, I don't really see how. How does telling a priest who's required to keep all confessions secret what wrongs, perceived or actual, you've done facilitate reconciliation with others? I can understand how it might be freeing to talk about problems or things you may have done wrong. Over the course of my life, I've seen psychologists to talk about my problems and usually feel much better afterwards. Let's take a look at what comes next. Through such an admission, man looks squarely at the sins he is guilty of, takes responsibility for them, and thereby opens himself again to God and to the communion of the Church in order to make a new future possible. While I can see how admitting wrongdoing, perceived or real, can help you confront them directly for yourself, how does it make someone take responsibility for it? As I previously said, the most common form of penance I'd receive was a few prayers or a rosary. I can't recall a single occasion where I was told that I had to apologize to someone I had wronged. This despite the fact that Catechism 1460 says, the penance the confessor imposes must take into account the penitent's personal situation and must seek his spiritual good. It must correspond as far as possible with the gravity and nature of the sins committed. It almost felt like an assembly line kind of thing when it came to any penance I had to do. Like, not a whole lot of thought went into it. I get that a priest might have a lot of people to hear confession for, and usually the time frame for hearing them is quite limited, but if you want real help that's tailored to the individual, see a psychologist. So before moving on, I actually went to Twitter and asked some of you guys what you would get most commonly as penance after confession. So let's take a look at what a few of you had to say. Unholy Mole said, it's been years and only went a couple of times, but Hail Marys usually. John Hamill said, always 10 Hail Marys, never anything else, no matter the sins. And Pessimistic Pepe said, honestly, just 3 Hail Marys or some Our Fathers, nothing arduous. Bear in mind, those are just a few examples and maybe not necessarily indicative of what every priest everywhere prescribes as penance. So with that, let's move on to Catechism 1456. Confession to a priest is an essential part of the sacrament of penance. All mortal sins of which penitents, after a diligent self-examination, are conscious, must be recounted by them in confession, even if they are the most secret and have been committed against the last 2 precepts of the Decalogue. For these sins sometimes wound the soul more grievously and are more dangerous than those which are committed openly. So much like the last one, let's break this down one piece at a time. Confession to a priest is an essential part of the sacrament of penance. Some of you may be wondering why. John 20:21 through 23 might just give us an answer. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." When he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained." So there we have at least one answer for the basis of Catholic confession. And the way it was explained to me many a year ago, the idea is that the ability to absolve someone of their sin is something that can be earned through priesthood. Continuing on with the breakdown, all mortal sins of which penitents, after a diligent self-examination, are conscious, must be recounted by them in confession, even if they are the most secret and have been committed against the last two precepts of the Decalogue, for these sins sometimes wound the soul more grievously and are more dangerous than those which are committed openly. Basically, this just says you have to confess everything to a priest, regardless of how embarrassing it is. And anyone who remembers my video on the 10 Commandments will recall that according to the Catholic Church, the 9th and 10th commandments are to not covet your neighbor's wife or goods. And the Catechism says they can be most damaging to your soul because it's not outwardly obvious. Unless, of course, you get a chubby while you're looking at your neighbor's wife. But really, it's just about thought crime. They're just trying to make you feel bad about being human. Speaking of being human, some people can be corrupt. So when you confess to a priest, you're relying on that priest's absolute discretion. Sure, violating the seal of confession is punishable by excommunication, but what if the priest blackmails you? Are you willing to report that priest for that excommunicable offense if they have something bad or embarrassing enough on you? Maybe not. And look, yes, you can run into similar issues with psychologists, but there you have legal recourse. There are real laws in place if a shrink violates confidentiality. That doesn't exist so much for priests. But that'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, linked below, to keep up with all my comings and goings, and definitely join my Discord. I look forward to talking to you guys all there. But that'll do it for this one. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.